Kevin McCarthy is going to be the next Speaker of the House. He is going to win this vote at some point. When exactly it will be, maybe there's still some more horse trading to happen. But after 11 votes where effectively nothing really changed, suddenly 14 additional Republicans have signed up to support Kevin McCarthy.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm a man of principle, and I believe in X, Y, and Z, but if he gives me X, Y, and Z, I'm not going to vote for him. What?
Well,
how does that make sense?
Here's how it makes sense, Laura. Kevin McCarthy is the masthead of the lobby corps, and I resent the extent to which Kevin McCarthy utilizes the lobbyists and the special interests to be able to dictate how political decisions are made, how policy decisions are made, and how leadership decisions are made. Kevin McCarthy has been in the leadership for 14 years, and he has sold shares of himself to special interests, to political action committees, and so that's why I don't think he is an appropriate choice.
Interesting back and forth there. Welcome back to Clay and Buck between Laura Ingraham on Fox and Congressman Matt Gaetz on this issue. I was thinking, Clay, at one point last night that there would be a deal, right? There were some reports that there had been a deal struck, and it seemed to me like it still seems to me that's probably the likeliest way this thing comes to a conclusion, but I don't really know. And it does also feel like the more people I talk to about this, there's just a sense that I think a lot of people on the right, they just want a little chaos introduced into the system. The fact that the gears are kind of grinding against each other on this, they like that.
I think also people are angry, right?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and I feel like the anger is going to spiral out in a big way in 2023 because we're going to move from, hey, we're all on the same team, Democrats are crazy, to the story of 2023 is who's going to be the nominee in 24. And I know the voting won't start until January, probably in Iowa, and February in New Hampshire. I don't even know that we've officially got the primary calendar out there yet. But all of 2023 is going to be about jockeying for position. And it's going to feature a lot of people taking shots. Like, did you see, I think you texted me, Buck, Kristi Noem's crew is going after Ron DeSantis now. I mean, like, kind of throwing some pretty heavy elbows all of a sudden. And that's to be expected. There's going to be a lot of brushback pitches, a lot of elbows thrown as we move into 2023.
This is what I mean. If people are getting really huffy with their fellow conservatives over who's going to be speaker, wait till we start picking a president, folks, or a presidential nominee. Things are going to get it's going to get spicy out there. So let's all just keep it within the family.
Want to give you an update on this 12th vote. I don't know, have they officially closed down the vote? I'm not sure, but 14 Republicans of the 20 that had been opposed to Kevin McCarthy have flipped their vote. So I don't know if it's officially final because before the final tally comes out, I believe I'm correct that only 2 more votes would be needed to make Kevin McCarthy officially the speaker here on the 12th vote. Buck, do you know if they've officially closed it down? The point here in a big picture context is Kevin McCarthy is going to be the next Speaker of the House. He is going to win this vote at some point. When exactly it will be, maybe there's still some more horse trading to happen. But after 11 votes where effectively nothing really changed, suddenly 14 additional Republicans have signed up to support Kevin McCarthy. So the 12th vote close to the closer, and the C-SPAN is still saying the vote is ongoing. So it's still possible last-minute horse trading. I think he only needs 2 more votes to officially be speaker. For people out there who have been following this on a minute-by-minute basis.
Oh my gosh, you mean the chaos? You mean the tumult that our nation's capital has been thrown into? Well, it's just like we said, everybody. It's all going to be fine. It's not a big deal. It's going to work out. Probably some horse trading's gone on here. Message has been heard at some level. It's not over yet, so who knows? You might have those last. There's the 20, and then there might be just
6.
that last group of 6 that may decide they're gonna really stick it to McCarthy a bit longer. So he needs a handful more votes. But I think we'll likely hear, and we got Anna Paulina supposed to join us, assuming she doesn't have to be in the midst of voting in the next hour. She's one of those members of Congress. And we'll probably hear that there were some concessions that were made by McCarthy to this group and that there were promises that were made. And maybe, Kevin McCarthy's gotten a little bit of a wake-up call here. I mean, you can look at this as something that could bring about some real positives beyond, I think, even just the concessions. I think sometimes, you got to get knocked around a little bit to understand the fight you're in. And, I think McCarthy, if you want to put a positive spin on this, people can say, it should have been somebody else who won or whatever. He hasn't won yet, obviously, but it's looking like that. But if you want to take the positive out of this, it's that I think McCarthy's been put on notice. And I think that there are 20 people here who had their voices heard by a lot of Americans who wanted that voice to be heard.
Also, they may have taken over the narrative news cycle from the anniversary of January 6th to Kevin McCarthy's the new speaker.
Can they do like 3 or 4 more rounds of voting just so we get through this until at least prime time at MSNBC when all the weeping can start?
They believe that Mr. McCarthy has earned the position of Speaker of the House because he raised $500 million to get Republicans elected.
The gentleman is not recognized.
That just happened a few moments ago. I just wanted you to hear that. Again, getting a little spicy there as Matt Gaetz calling out McCarthy, saying he's raised all this money. Look, it certainly is spoken about a lot among members of the press and the political pundit folks out there that Gaetz and McCarthy don't get along on a personal level, to put it lightly. That's well known. And there's obviously now not a whole lot, I think, that's going to prevent McCarthy from being speaker. But as that was happening, because we're not really that used to a lot of theatrics going on in Congress. There are other parts of the world, whether it's a parliament or whatever their legislative branch may be, where things get pretty crazy. Have you ever seen? First of all, obviously the British House of Commons. There's all excuse me, sir. They make a lot of noise when people are, the right honorable gentleman and all that stuff. Very theatrical. And then I think it's famously the parliament. I don't know if it's a parliament or whatever the legislature is in Taiwan, but where they've had guys who have actually there was like a famous video of a guy throwing a fly kick at another guy. Have you ever seen that one?
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So things get a little fiery.
We're down to 7 holdouts now. So the 12th vote is now complete. And McCarthy, assuming those people vote, because there's still a mechanism, I believe, where they could choose not to vote. And that could alter how many votes exactly he needs. But 218 obviously is the number that he needs to get to. And he needs about 4 more votes, I believe, out of these outstanding 7, assuming they vote. Now, I think they could just abstain, and he could hit a majority that way. But I'm not sure what exactly the percentages would need to be. I think that's correct. So basically, this thing is over, right? What we were waiting to see was, would the 20-ish people who were voting against McCarthy be able to take their numbers up, or would McCarthy be able to cut into them? And the 20 opponents are losing their base, and they're now down to 7. And Anna Paulina Luna, who's going to join us in about a half hour, unless there's some additional voting going on, has flipped her vote now to Kevin McCarthy. So we can directly ask her, Buck, hey, what were the negotiations that went on? Why were you a no on Tuesday? And by Friday, you feel comfortable coming in as a yes on vote 12. So we'll get direct from Washington, D.C., a behind-the-scenes story of what exactly is going on there.
And now we all can focus on how we can tell our great-grandchildren that during the great Speaker of the House ruckus of 2023 that lasted a couple of days, where were you during it, Clay? We were waiting for it to end because it wasn't going to last all that long. But on a serious note, I do think that this is setting the stage for what's going to be a whole lot more wrangling within the GOP, which is a good thing. I mean, how else? We were all disappointed about what happened in the midterm election in general. Why wouldn't there be some friction? Why wouldn't there be something along the lines of a realignment, or at least an attempted realignment within the GOP in terms of messaging, the processes that it will pursue, the agenda that it will have? And this is all going to take some time. I mean, this is the system working itself out. So I think this is more or less gone how we have thought that it would. It is not over yet, but it's looking like it's going to be closing up shop here pretty quickly. It's probably going to be in the next vote. Are they holding another vote today? Do we know?
I think they probably will. I don't know that they've officially announced it. There definitely has been an opportunity. If you have been in the holdout community, one, I think you've gotten many different aspects of this relationship that you wanted in exchange for your vote. Also, if you're still holding out, I think you probably maximized the amount of fundraising and attention you can get out of this, because once you break down and you're down to just 7 holdouts, I think a lot of people out there say, okay, you've got 200 plus that are saying Kevin McCarthy may not be perfect, but we're voting for him. What exactly are you holding out for if you're the 7? You're such a substantial minority now of the Republican Party in the House that you don't have very much leverage when you just lost 2/3 of the people that were opposing alongside of you. I just
wonder what folks out there are thinking about this, by the way. 800-282-2882. Assuming this is coming to a conclusion with McCarthy as Speaker, do you feel like this was it worth it? If there were concessions made, is that enough? Or are a lot of people very disappointed? I'm curious to hear how that goes. And I think that, as we've been saying, Clay, the primary that lies ahead here for Republicans, this is really just a very brief preview of the kind of arguments that will be made about who's establishment, who's not, who's the future of the party, who's not. All of this will be on the horizon here soon.
13th vote for Speaker currently underway, and 2 more of the holdouts have now flipped to McCarthy. So I believe as we are rolling through right now, we are down to 5. Maybe it's still 6. Again, as we track. And the number that he actually needs is in flux a bit, because some Republicans are right now out of the chambers and they're talking about getting back. Typically you would need 218 out of 435, one more than the majority would require. But with some Republicans out, maybe 217 is in play for him to be Speaker, maybe 216, depending on how exactly the math works out. So again, for those of you out there that have been keeping track, watching this with bated breath, Kevin McCarthy is an overwhelming favorite to become the Speaker. 15 Republicans so far have changed their votes for McCarthy, and we will see exactly who can be in the chamber and who cannot. They're trying to close it out tonight. Buck, I saw this and I thought it was interesting. New poll coming out. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of these Republican leaders? These are Republican voters. Ron DeSantis plus 82, 88 favorable, 6% negative. Greg Abbott, 72 favorable, 8 negative, net 64. Trump, 72-15. Trump's favorability ratings in the Republican Party have been among the most important part of his appeal. I think he was up around 96, 97% at one point. His current favorability, just 72. Do you buy that Trump has taken a hit in the Republican Party of late, or do you think this poll is out of whack?
Look, you and I both know that there are people who are frustrated with Trump who are Trump voters. I'm not talking about never Trumpers. I'm not talking about people that, make a living or even support those who make a living going on CNN pretending to be Republicans when all they do is the bidding of Democrats. You and I both know a lot of people who are 2-time Trump voters who are frustrated at this point with what they've recently in particular seen. But that doesn't mean And this is the thing about Trump as a candidate and as a political force. You just don't know. So has he dropped a little bit right now? I could see that. Or are there some other candidates that people are thinking about on the Republican side more seriously than they have in the past? I would think so. The polling data all supports that. But it's January of 2023. There's a lot of time between now and when this stuff really starts to matter. I mean, it's basically a little over a year, right, before people are going to start casting ballots in the primary. And so the thing about Trump is you just never know. And I think that right now, this is so early in the process that it's hard to take anything from this other than we're in like the first inning of a nine inning game.
Do you think we had Julie Kelly on earlier, and it's the 2-year anniversary of January 6th, and I would say the one thing that I think is a massive benefit of Republicans dragging out their speaker vote is it's really kind of killing the idea that you'd spend much time talking about January 6th, because the usual suspects are all tracking Republican votes. And I actually think it would be kind of funny if they came out and said, yeah, we just decided to drag out the speaker vote so Democrats couldn't celebrate January 6th. Like, somebody can go on television and say that. It's not true, I don't think, but it does kind of undercut their narrative. Julie Kelly has been aggressive in the fact that she believes Trump is going to get indicted. I think that they are going to indict Trump still in 23. Do you think that's going to happen?
I mean, you did bet
I did lose a stake bet.
That Hunter Biden was going to be indicted last year. And as we all know, Hunter Biden has not been indicted.
Yes,
so
I still think they're both going to get indicted this year.
I take my steak medium rare. I think that the Trump indictment call, it's so funny because, not funny, ha-ha, but sort of odd, because the likelihood of Trump being indicted really turns upon, I think, the political calculation around it more so than the legal one. This is anytime you're talking about indicting a former president, there's going to be a lot of politics involved in that decision. But when you have a likely presidential contender again and former president, obviously on uncharted territory, don't know, have no real historical precedent for this, have nothing even close to a historical precedent for this. And so I think it'll be determined by what the Democrats believe is in their best political interests more so than anything else. And I do also think that the theory that look, I believe you and I have agreed on this the whole time. It's not a change. I think Democrats want to run against Trump.
Yes.
Now, for anyone who gets annoyed hearing that or that frustrates them, that doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean Trump can't win.
They wanted to run against him in 16.
That's right. That's exactly. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. They thought that they were going to kick his butt in 2016. So I'm not saying that they're right. I'm merely saying, and I do know Democrats and I do talk to them, they want Trump as the candidate against Biden because that nullifies in their minds the Biden is obviously too old and everything, because, Trump's kind of too old too.
It'll be 78 versus 82, I believe, if Trump and Biden ran against each other in 2024. Their respective ages, 78 and 82. So it's hard to be like 82 is too old, but 78 is perfect.
But to the point about the rallying effect you made with Julie Kelly, let's say that they do the indictment against Trump, I don't know, next summer or something like that, right? Right before the end of summer they were to indict Trump. There could be a rallying effect, and they might think to themselves, oh, well, great, now we get to run against Trump. But what if that rallying effect is so powerful because of people's outrage at what's so obviously a partisan game the Democrats are playing that all of a sudden Trump is a more formidable candidate than they faced since 2016? So they can't know exactly how this plays out either, which makes me think that, they're going to have to take a wait-and-see approach to this. And when I say they, it's Merrick Garland, but does anybody believe that Merrick Garland wouldn't talk to? Now, I know they have this special counsel, right? Jack Smith.
Yes.
And so Jack Smith but Jack Smith has to, it's kind of this game everybody plays. Jack Smith has to refer the charges to Merrick Garland is the way this ends. So it ends up being a Merrick Garland decision. And I don't care what anybody says, Merrick Garland's going to talk to Joe Biden about it. That's just reality.
And the one little thing that I would put in your back of your mind out there is I think they want Trump to be indicted. because I think they believe that makes Trump more likely to be the nominee. I understand there are some of you out there that say, oh, they want to indict Trump so he's not selected. No, I think they want to run against Trump. What if Biden pardoned Trump?
Oh, I've thought about that. I thought this was a possibility all along. Oh, yeah.
Merrick Garland indicts him, and then Joe Biden comes out. I think it could be a genius political move because then he basically, like, I'm not afraid of you. Like, if you want to be the nominee, you be the nominee. For the better angels of America, I am pardoning Donald Trump, and I want to run against him. I think he might smoke Trump if he did that.
Well, then it turned. I guess he would do that before they would actually put him to trial. So if the charges come out,
yes,
he could pardon him before. But then you would still have the entire media calling Trump the convicted felon. I don't know. I feel like.
I mean, yeah. Well, I guess
I'm sorry, not the convicted felon, but they would call him a felon one way or the other.
Indicted felon.
Yeah.
I think it would be a brilliant political stroke for Biden that might sweep him into the election.
Yeah. See, I always think with Democrats, ruthless but not brilliant. That's how Now, ruthless gets it done a lot of the time.
I get it.
Brilliant,
and look,
not so much for them.
I think what could happen is Democrats, Biden's going to have to announce Buck in like February or March at the latest. I think he's going to run. That's one that I think you were right. I thought that he would get beat badly in the midterms. I think one of the benefits of the midterm is it made it more likely Biden's going to run. I think Biden's a weak candidate. So if Biden runs and if he announces, I think that DeSantis is going to wait till the very last moment to get in this race. So Democrats are basically buckling in Joe Biden as the nominee. If you ended up with 82-year-old Joe Biden running against like 45-year-old Ron DeSantis, that has to be the largest age gap we've ever seen in the history of presidential elections. I think DeSantis would smoke him. I don't think it would be remotely close. DeSantis has a lot of flaws as a candidate. I'm not saying he's perfect. Every candidate has flaws. But I think that age difference would be impossible to overcome, whereas I think Biden against Trump, to your point, I think Biden being 82 doesn't matter. So I think Democrats have to be careful that they don't lock themselves in with a candidate that they're planning on running against Trump, and then Republicans shift the script and change their nominee.
Yeah, I also think the window is closing for a Biden replacement in the nominee, for the Democrats to be the nominee.
Yeah.
Other than Kamala. I think you're getting closer and closer to a point here where I still think it is going to be Biden, as we all know, and I've said that for a long time now. Could be wrong, but it's either going to be Biden or Kamala. I don't see this the other options we thought about. With each passing month now, I think it just becomes more of an inevitability that it has to be one of the two, and I still think Biden ends up being the guy who does it. So that
it's going to be the story of 23.
That's going to be the big story of 23. So that's where we're going.